There's a great poem by Rumi, which I want to read because it captures this really beautifully. He says, there are two kinds of intelligence. One acquired, as a child in school memorizes facts and concepts from books and from what the teacher says, collecting information from the traditional sciences as well as from the new sciences. This is our everyday thinking. He says, with such intelligence, you rise in the world. You get along. You get ranked ahead or behind others in regard to your competence in retaining information. You stroll with this intelligence in and out of fields of knowledge, getting always more marks on your preserving tablets, which is, could also say, it's a way we cope and adapt to the world. We're busy. And this is how we get along, and we do well or we do poorly. We get things done or we don't, but we're always trying, and we're worrying and hoping for results. He goes on. There is another kind of intelligence, one already completed and preserved inside you, a spring overflowing its spring box, a freshness in the center of the chest. This other intelligence does not turn yellow or stagnate. It's fluid. And it doesn't move from outside to inside. This second knowing is a fountainhead from within you moving out. This is the, we could say on the level of mind, this is our target. And our awakeness, our resilient awareness can't be created. We can't make it happen. We can't construct it. There's not anything we can do to awaken. We can, however, let it happen. And so in following the path of the Buddha, we let it happen by collecting ourselves and then tuning in. So it's kind of democratic. It's sort of scholarly, the way the Rumi sets this up. It's kind of like there's two sides of a coin. But the truth is that the side of figuring things out, the everyday mind, the calculating mind, where does that come from? This ordinary way of thinking is all about objectivizing, naming, getting a grip, getting a better perspective, having some control. Over that out there but also self-control. We respect this. Otherwise, we know how it goes. We're at the mercy of circumstances. We can't cope with what's out there, or we're at the mercy of our own impulses, our own emotional reactions, our own thought forms that drag us here, there, in the third place. So this intentional intelligence, conceptual, focused, is really valuable. It's valuable for getting along in the world, but it's also valuable on a spiritual path. Mainly, so we can calm our system down enough in order to do the radical work, the game-changing. We say work, but maybe that's not the right word. Attunement is a better word. In order to attune, not to our own projections, but to the way things are. This requires tuning into what's going on underneath the runaround, not the object, whatever our focus is, whether it's an outside thing or an inside thing, but the subject, the subjective presence, the subjective awareness that allows us to objectivize something, to get a handle on something, or not. So even though we could say there's two sides of one coin, the freshness that arises from presence is what allows for the other side of the coin. Our being, as it is, unconstructed, already lucid, can be funneled into various doings and projects. And the thing is, then we get lost in our thinking, in the way we take ourselves in our world. We get lost in that, what he calls the first kind of thinking, but really it's the second, it's secondary. It's based, it comes out of, is based on and comes out of a basic intelligence, a basic sanity. That's forever fresh and flowing. The only question is, are we tuned into it? Or are we lost in our constructs? So the primary challenge is to shift our awareness from being in thought bubbles to being in bare attention, naked awareness. And then, of course, once we make that shift, there's the bigger challenge of tolerating that openness. The second, which is really the primary kind of knowing. And for that work, it's just really a question of getting used to being open. Like right now, we're breathing, listening, talking. So already we're right on the threshold, at the very least, of not being preoccupied, not following our thoughts. If we're spinning out, although we're bodies here and we seem to be listening, we never know if that's true, do we? The mind could be somewhere else. We all know that. We've all been there. That's calculative knowing. It's not the fundamental, our fundamental nature, our fundamental intelligence, which is inherently contemplative in being open. This is the thing in existential philosophy. It's been said that the human being is fundamentally a meditative being. Meaning that we're cognizant. And we're only cognizant because we have the capacity of being empty, open. If we were just our thoughts, that would be a whole different thing. There would be only this calculating intelligence. So the key challenge is to shift. Where? Here. Opening the mind. Letting whatever is here, whatever arises, be here, but without modifying it, without messing with it, without following our thoughts, our memories, our desires, our aversions, our distractions. Notice the difference, if you can, between when you are fixating on a thought and when your mind is open, non-fixated. Is it even possible to be non-fixated, to have no object that you're concentrating on? One way to access that is to turn the mind around, because it's always looking out. We have these two eyes and they're always looking out. So instead of getting a better pair of glasses, what happens if we look into a mirror? And look for a moment, turning it around. Who's looking? Who's experiencing? Who's understanding? Who's not sure? Sometimes we're looking for something special, a kind of a jolt, insight, a feeling, a good feeling. Those are all perceptions. This basic kind of knowing is all about the perceiver, not the perception. So this is where tuning in becomes game-changing, mission critical. So it's so odd that the challenge of the free mind, nirvana, is so close at hand, only we don't recognize it. So this is where the pivotal challenge is to recognize. To recognize that there's nothing to recognize. There's no thing to achieve that would be somewhere else other than here, other than now. It's this utter simplicity, presence as such, basic intelligence, which every baby has already, totally completed and preserved inside us, can't be improved upon. And although we can lose it through our distractions in our projects, it never loses us. sentience as such. Undefended, non-striving, non-grasping, non-distracted. This is the gist. The Buddha said his entire teaching, all of it, can be summarized as grasping and the end of grasping. Trying to improve something about ourself versus radically accepting without complacency, without defensiveness. The way we are. Naked awareness. Breathing full and deep. Mind spacious and open. The heart spacious and open. The throat, what we have to say, our own voice, our unique voice. Spacious, open. Belly, also easy and open. rather than considering our awareness like a flashlight, where we focus first on one thing, then another, maybe bounces into something else, one bang, 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 rather than a flashlight, flicking the switch in a room. Everything's illuminated. This is this primary intelligence. This is how it already is. Only, as we say, our visions become obscured. We've become preoccupied with this, that, and the third thing. So we could shift, we could relax. This is the primary knowing. This is our natural mind, unconstructed, unfabricated, non-calculating, inherently intelligent, inherently lucid. We can go either way. We're free. We're really free. We can go down a one-track line of ideas, leaving everything off to the side. Or we can allow our awareness to be more spacious, more inherently meditative, and allow things that don't seem to go together to be together, to allow contradictions to coexist, mixed feelings to be co-present. So we don't get stuck in our opinion, creating problems for ourselves and others. Forgetting how to dance with circumstances. We need this more fluid intelligence. We need to access this to have more reach and more range, to be skillful with ourselves and others. And then to come to what we say in Buddhism as full enlightenment. But of course, this is not restricted to Buddhism. Mystics know this all from all over the place. William Blake, for instance, you know this quote of William Blake: if the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear as it is. If the doors of perception were cleansed, clear, everything would appear as it is, infinite, not limited to this and that in mental boxes, in dualistic vision, objectivizing vision. If the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear as it is, infinite. For man has closed himself up till he sees all things through narrow chinks in his cavern. This is William Blake. Man has closed himself up. This is the first kind of thinking. Could be William Blake, it could be Rumi. But if the doors of perception were cleansed, if we dropped our insistence on what we think we know and open up to the mystery, open up to, in a certain sense, unknowing, non-fixating knowing. The doors of perception become cleansed, all on their own. So the first kind of intelligence, the sort of instrumental intelligence, is all about effort and doing. Basic intelligence, awakened intelligence, is all about being. And being present, we can do things, sure, or not. We can do them up to when they don't need to be done and then leave them alone. We can do them with the awareness that everything's flowing and nothing will remain fixed. No security arrangement that we aspire to will ever come, be fixed. We cannot fix ourselves. And that is especially good news. Because it means we don't have to be fixed. If to be authentic with it, if we can open to unconditional presence, simple, uncluttered mind. So I think that's, I think I'll end there. And so we'll take just a couple minutes. If you need to, go to the bathroom or you want something to drink or whatever, go ahead. That's a very nice bell. The reverberations really last a while.
Yeah, from here it's still happening. But I don't know if you can hear it there.
So how did it go? What do you think?
Ken, this is Jen. I'd really like to say I appreciate this reminder that doing less is somehow a really good idea, because I've been feeling pretty overwhelmed and sort of feeling like I'm supposed to do more. So I took some notes here, kind of unproductive and effortless. Those two words just right there, unproductive and effortless, it feels like, oh my God, what a relief to not be trying to kind of intellectually gear up or do some mental formation. So I want to say thank you for that, because there's an opportunity for calming that doesn't feel like I'm dropping out, but there's a wisdom. What you're offering is like a wisdom container. So thank you for that.
You bet. Hi, Rosemary.
Yes, hello from Sacramento. It's good to see you all, you guys. I just want to say I got such a kick out of what you said just now. Well, you think? It just cracked me up. So thank you for that humor. And of course, the phrase I keep thinking is easier said than done, easier said than done. So we can formulate these talks. I just did a day long with Rich Howard, and I just kept hitting the wall. I just blah 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 blah, and I couldn't quiet my mind. It didn't matter what the instructions were or what the guidance was. I just was discursive thinking, and it's like there are times like that. There are days like that, but to know that over the course of a lifetime or whatever, hopefully I'll have glimpses of that bare awareness. So thank you. Thank you for your humor.
It's more fun. Yeah, the Dharma can get a little heavy on the seriosity. But you know, our minds are serious. So sometimes that can be good to really untie those knots. You gotta meet them in their knottedness. Otherwise, you know, you can go to a comedy club, and you know that's good. It's a good break, but then you go home, and it doesn't change too much.
So Ken, I have a question about, the negative bias of the mind, how we tend to go into a defensive mode, just our biological being is very attentive to our environment and survival, and we focus on that a lot. And so there's this impulse or this, and babies have that too. So it's kind of, that is also a part of our nature. So is that different than the adaptive kind of acquired intelligence, or is that what? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So that brings up, like even more sort of aspects, more complications, really, because we have a genetic predisposition, right? We have a human legacy. I mean, just leaving aside the fact that we could have been other beings, hungry ghosts or animals or gods or something, just leaving that whole thing aside, just thinking just human. Yeah, we lived in the Stone Age. We came out of the trees. Well, we came out of the ocean. We know that, but it's kind of at a distance. So there's that sort of genetic thing, and then there's also, babies. I'm not so sure about. Like there's no real consciousness in the sense of self-consciousness. There's definitely whatever, out of sorts for one reason or the other. Things aren't good. I'm wet, I'm hungry. I don't know what it is. Something's like bubbling up, some distress is bubbling up. We're antsy. babies, tend to be fussy. I don't know where that comes from. Like, where does that come from? It's a bit of a mystery, but it's definitely a reaction. An emotional reaction. So I'm not sure that I have a good answer for that. I think for us, adults, it makes more sense to simply respect that stuff comes up. Stuff comes up in the world, whether it's something on the internet, something with the internet, that technical, an information technology problem just arises, or a car breaks down, or the toilet doesn't work, like all of these sort of things. Or we're minding our business, things are going pretty well, but then a mood comes over us. So where does that stuff come from? I mean, there's ways we could understand that in terms of karmic seeds. And so I think it's helpful to appreciate that when something comes over us, either a challenge on the outside or something bubbles up on the inside, there's an opportunity to release on something. We can see how we relate to it, right? And so whatever a mood comes up, whether it's irritable or whether it's happy, and so we can kind of see how we relate to it. If we grasp on, try to get rid of it if it's bad, or try to hang on if it's good, now we're full on in calculate, we have an agenda. So we're totally caught in the object of awareness. And babies have a really hard time tolerating that. They don't have much capacity for equanimity. They haven't learned to deal with, say, life's difficulties. As we grow up, we know we have to deal with all kinds of stuff, and so we get stronger. Or we get more brittle, or both. Sometimes we get more flexible, more adept, we're able to handle things. In other areas, we get more rigid, more stuck. So this is just basic. But it doesn't matter whether it's rigid or stuck. The practice is always the same. Calm it down, tune in. And then if we have the initiation, if we have the access, now maybe we've received an initiation from a teacher, or maybe we've received an initiation spontaneously, whether it's through taking medicine, a psychedelic medicine or something, or we've just stumbled upon it ourselves by virtue of our own capacity while blooming for this basic contentless, objectless awareness, being as such. So usually Buddhism is going to focus on the problems, on the obscurations and all of that, and on developing positive factors, whether it's the factors of enlightenment or it's the paramitas or something. But the most direct route is to have access to the nature of the mind that can get obscured or not. So to the extent that we know what it is to be in wonderment, unattached, unfixated, then we want to relax into that and get more used to it, because the system is not used to it. We're used to always having an issue, always having a problem, always having a project to do. So that's where this sort of way that I'm teaching, and also I think John's been doing more of this as well. It's like focusing on not the problems, but the resilience, the natural resilience of mind, this basic intelligence, this basic sanity, which keeps getting eclipsed by our doings, by our anxieties, by our desires for something other than what's happening. And so we don't then tune in to the field of awareness in which the here and now, it can be kind of, a cliche, be present, be in the here and now, and so forth. But then it's not so good. But being present and non-distracted, then it's like tuning into how that is. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, Marcia.
Good enough. Good enough. I think Kai Travis had a question.
Hi, Ken. Thank you so much for your talk. I really appreciated it.
Cool.
I'm a little late in making my comment, but I'm going to go back. And you asked, why do babies have the reactions they do when they're born? And there's actually a physiological and neurological reason. They've been in a really warm, comfy place where all their needs have been met, and suddenly they're thrown out into the world and they come out screaming. And some cultures have figured out how to deal with a little bit of that, and they swaddle the babies right away. And other cultures, one that I lived with for 20 years, put the babies in cradle boards, and they see the world vertically rather than horizontal for the first year or so. So they have that opportunity to gradually take in and develop their senses and adapt in a more gradual manner. Anyway, after hearing that and observing that information, I decided that the solution to all of our anxieties and depressions is just for all of us to go back into the womb, and everything will be taken care of. But we can't do that, so we meditate. And that's the best we can do. Thank you.
Well, of course we can't do it physically, but can we do it psychically? In the sense of, can we tune in to what's unborn, to unborn, undying awareness? Unconstructed, unborn. And not being born, there can be no death. Awareness as such. On a call like this, it's just about impossible to do anything but sort of the bluntest pointing out instruction, which is kind of what I've been doing. It's kind of what I have been doing for a long time. Opening up. I'm not making this up, by the way. In many Dzogchen texts, also Mahamudra texts, also in other mystical traditions, this is the language that people have used. unborn, undying. So what I'm sort of adding is this more contemporary language, psychological language, like unconstructed, something like that. But it remains as a concept until we have a direct experience. And the thing is, I have found most people have had direct experiences. Maybe they've had them, like I said, on a drug, or when they've been in nature, or while making love, or in their garden. Some ecstatic experience where time has stood still. Maybe you've had that yourself. It's not make-believe. It's not an idealistic fantasy. But the challenge is how to cultivate an undefended position, a non-position. This is the whole thrust in sutras, in Sutra Buddhism, not even, we don't have to go to tantras, just in sutras. The whole point is realizing emptiness, selflessness. That's very clear, even though the Buddha didn't start with that. He felt like he couldn't. If it was like it was just too big of a leap, nobody would get it. It took a long time. It's really the Mahayanas where it really began to stride, came into a stride at Vulture Peak, where you can go to Vulture Peak. It's not far from Bodh Gaya. It's a real place. Now it's a tourist destination for Buddhist pilgrims mainly. So I say open, that's a synonym for empty. I feel it's a better translation.
Virginia, go ahead and just unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay, I think it's more of a comment, less of a question, but Candace, I'm just really grateful for this Dharma talk because, I can tell that you're sitting in the field of awareness and, I like to hang there as much as I can too, but it's been a really busier summer than I have liked. So there's been, grandkid drama and, I've been helping an elderly friend move and more projects, and it's taken me out and I've had a hard time, accessing that, and the talk brought me back. So thank you. I'm feeling just really, I got really caught out there and fixated and was spinning out, and I was aware that it was happening, but I was having a hard time getting back. So this really helped. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoy your Dharma talks. Yeah.
Welcome back.
Yeah. Woohoo. Yeah. Home again. But I have had through lots of experiences in India and other many years of work, I have tasted that place, that field. So now I can go back because I know it. And so but being in the presence of someone who's in there helps me sometimes when I can't find it again. So thank you.
Yeah, it can be really good, since having had a clear recognition, it can be really helpful to flash on it throughout the day Not, you have to get on the Zafu, you don't have to make a thing, just a flash, a momentary flash. It could be easily less than a minute. Because if you get a flash, then that's going to also impact the system for a little bit. So it's about becoming more familiar. So it becomes more, what we say, second nature, or first nature, I guess. I'm not quite sure how that metaphor works here. Little flashes, many times.
And I just noticed, I usually am not as busy as I am. And I just, this old habits of the mind just speed up and try to solve it and make it happen and, obsess and go around in circles. So anyway, I got a little off the mark. So again, thank you.
Yeah. Good to see you. Good to see you at the sushi place too. Well, Marcia, maybe we should go to announcements, or maybe just a bit of meta, just a minute of meta.
That would be great.
Let's do that. Okay. Tune in. We can keep it simple today. Just tune in to loving kindness. Real friendliness. Simple kindness towards self and other. However we might get impatient or frustrated, irritable with others or ourselves, may that be dispelled by our awareness, and may we be filled instead with loving kindness, real gentleness, real friendliness, simple neighborliness, filled with loving kindness. May all beings who are suffering be free of suffering. Understand the causes of their suffering. May all beings be happy and find the cause of real happiness. May all beings everywhere be free.